Because 6 miles to get to the other side of LAX, any given hour of the day, you're not getting in there in less than 30 minutes. 40, easily. Like, so it might as well have been in San Diego. And so she goes, I'm going to put you in touch with my dad. So I get on the phone with her father a few hours later, and the first thing out of his mouth. So Kathy says so many outstanding things about you, Tony. And I looked at your website, very impressive. He did his what? Research. Still to this day, everyone will do their research first. But I'm curious, how many $6 million houses have you sold in my neighborhood? See, I'll tell you how to get 100 leads today. You still have to be a good enough agent to close it. So, when he asked me that question, I was like, I've stretched the truth in my life. We all have. Don't say you haven't. I know for a fact you have. You're at the doctor's office. You're in the elevator. You're not feeling well. Somebody in the elevator is like, how you doing today? Great. No, you're not doing great. That's why you're in the doctor's office. So, but if I lie, it's wrong. I'm going to get caught, and I'm not getting the listing. If I tell the truth, I'm not getting the listing. Think about that. Don't ever fool yourself into thinking if you tell the truth at that moment, you still got a shot. None. Oh, none? None. Well, how many $6 million houses have you sold just throughout LA? None. Well, how many like multi-million dollar houses have you sold? Like 2, 3, 4 million? None. How many houses have you sold? None. You're not getting the listing. That's a fact. Or, actually the next pitch that I actually hear agents saying sometimes when I walk by their office or cubicle as if this pitch will actually work is, but look, sir, unlike you listing your $5 million house with an agent who's got like 10 $5 million listings, where you're just a dime a dozen client to them, imagine how much harder I'll work for you with you being the only thing I got going in my life right now. You're my Cuba Gooding Jr. Jeremy Wood. It's like I will give you so much more service. Don't fool yourself into thinking that's a good pitch. Now, maybe your family friend is still going to give you a shot, but you're never going to get extraordinary results without a massive history of successfully selling multi-million dollar houses. Or, you know, sir, just as selective as you are in an agent, I'm extremely selective of the clients I bring on. And I choose you. I just didn't choose the last 10. So, I have a class called Sophisticated Impression. And Craig and I and Mike and your leadership are trying to figure out when I'll come back and do this luxury presentation for you. But it's a luxury mastery presentation. It's about 5 hours that I used to do for Sotheby's and previews when I was with them. And back then it was only 90 minutes. Now it's 6 hours, way more in depth. And a part of this class is called Listing Presentation. Raise your hand if you've ever heard or seen a class being offered that had something to do with building your listing presentation. All of you should be raising your hand. I'm sure all of you have seen something being offered that has to do with listing presentation. But raise your hand if you've ever seen a class being offered called listing preparation. Doesn't exist. That's mine. So a part of my sophisticated impression class is called listing presentation versus listing preparation. Because who cares how great of a listing presentation any of you have in this room if you never get appointments to deliver it? I don't care how great it looks. How often are you pitching it? How often are you presenting it? Well, I thought I was going to be able to present it last week, but they never called me back, and I just saw it hit the market with another agent. So they probably were already working with that agent. No. You talked to them on the phone? Yeah. It was probably something you said on the phone that made them not call you back. So, it's preparing, always. Going on broker tour, preparing. So when he asked me that question, I was prepared for it. I remember before I called him, I go, what are the 5 worst questions this guy could ask me? Because I was a successful businessman back in the day. I built a mortgage boutique. I owned property. I knew business. It was just a business sense. And he asked the worst question right out of the gate. The second worst one, he asked as the second one, which is how long have you been selling real estate? But the first one right out of the gate, how many $6 million houses have you sold in my neighborhood? Hot shot. And so when he asked me, in my head I went, I just lost half my commission. But who cares? Because I'd rather have half of it now than none of it ever. So my answer was, well, my partner and co-agent, Chris Cortazzo, and I look forward to coming over to your house next week to show you how many $6 million houses have been represented in your neighborhood. Oh, Chris Cortazzo is your partner? Yes, Chris will be co-listing this with me. Oh, fantastic. We were going to reach out to your office as one of the people we were going to interview. I see your signs everywhere. No, they're his. And Chris has no clue. But what did I just do? I took him out of the equation. So he goes, great, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And I already know Chris is going to say yes. Because it happens all the time in high-end real estate. All the time in high-end luxury real estate, you'll see co-listing happening. Definitely in California. But I see it everywhere. I see it in big cities in Texas as well. So I call Chris. Chris is in Maui on vacation. And I'm like, hey bro, you want to co-list this $5.8 million listing when you get back in town with me in Manhattan Beach? I'll do all the work, all the showings, all the inspection meetings, everything. I'll be your workhorse. I'll do whatever you want me to do. You don't need to do any of that. Maybe run one ad in Homes and Land magazine because you know I don't have any money, and get half the commission when we sell this bad boy. Sure. So he comes into town from vacation. We go to the listing presentation in his car. Go to the listing presentation, and we get the listing presentation. Or we get the listing. And it's beginning of December, just got evicted, and for the next week or two we're going to be prepping to get it on MLS. Only time Chris ever went to that house was that listing presentation. In the entire 6 months we had it. I went there every week practically, having to show it, sit it, inspecting, whatever it was. There were times where Chris or Madison had to pick me up on the side of PCH because my truck overheated. Madison Hildebrand from the Show $1 Million Listing. Ask him, how many times did you have to pick Tony up on the side of the freeway because his truck broke down? So again, you want to talk about getting out of your comfort zone. I was super transparent with everybody. And that house sold for $5.25 million 6 months later, June 29, 2010. And the rest is history. Broke into the luxury market in less than 30 days. In that same first 6 months of my career, I closed 3 other transactions. 1.1, 1.4, 1.8. 2 of which came from Facebook the exact same way Kathy did. Random people who I had added as friends, built relationships with, who ultimately either referred me a deal or was their own personal short sale or whatever it was. So on June 30th, I went, I've closed over 10 million in volume my first 6 months of my career. And 75% of it came from Facebook. And I was only up to like 1,200 friends by that moment, 6 months of lead gen online. It cannot be this easy. Lead generation and building a database cannot be this simple. But it is, still to this day, because it's just where people are now. They're not at home to answer the front door. They don't have hardline phones at their house to answer telemarketers. for cold calling. They're online. And I can access 10,000 of them, and I never would have been able to access 10,000 in any other form of lead gen. Not a form of lead gen you can name to me right now that could even come close to lead gen online. Not one. It's just so many people are still doing the old school ones because they don't understand this one. That's all. So by the end of 2010, I became Rookie of the Year. 2011, Coldwell Banker put me on their national speaking circuit. Realogy, then, who owns Coldwell Banker, said, we want you speaking for C21 and Sotheby's and ERA and Better Homes, which they also own. Realogy owns all of those brands. And in 2011, I exploded. Became a national luxury trainer for CB Previews, and then KW started calling. And I ignored their phone calls like you all did. And I remember, they would call me and they would try to recruit me all the time. And I always said the same thing to the lady who called me. Call me when your logo changes. And she's like, excuse me? And I'm like, call me when your logo changes. And she's like, what's wrong with our logo? And I'm like, nothing. You're a great company. You've built a massive corporation. Like, good for you, hats off. I just won't put my name with that logo. And she's like, why? And I go, because Remax, C21, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, 100 years ago chose fonts that would last 1,000 years. You chose a font that was popular the time you were founded in 1983, which was bubble lettering. You all remember bubble lettering. Big, thick letters with little things on the end of them. And it went as fast as it came. But you guys stayed that way, so every time I look at your logo, I think 1983. And marketing is the most important thing in sales. And I just can't attach my name to it. And she's like, well, we let you brand yourself. And I go, but I still have to say my mother company. And I just won't. She goes, but you're throwing so much money away at your company. And I go, I know, I'm stupid. But I take marketing very seriously, especially as a marketing major. So a few months later, she calls me at the end of 2011, and she goes, go to kw.com. So I went to kw.com, and in the left-hand corner was the old logo, and in the right-hand corner was the new lowercase kw, and they were beta testing it to see what the company was going to vote, and the lowercase won very quickly. I joined February 6, 2012, literally 3 weeks later. And she's like, you were serious? And I'm like, yeah. The last year I was with Coldwell Banker, they got $182,000. Their cut was $182,000. I could have written a check for $35,000 for the cap out of the Brentwood office in LA and been done. $150,000 extra would be in my son's tuition.
That part again. How much was the cap?
$35,000 is the Los Angeles cap. $45,000 is our Beverly Hills office. $52,000 in Northern California, in San Francisco, and Los Gatos areas. Yeah.
So
You guys.
Coldwell Banker does not have a cap? It's just
No.
Okay, just a split
No,
always?
none of those companies do. None of those companies take their cut forever. Yeah. So, but we're not talking about that. I'm just saying, I took marketing so seriously, I wasn't even allowing myself to be in a better business model. And that cost me an insane amount of money, but to me, marketing would have cost me more. So I just waited. And when I saw that new logo come out, KW, Keller Williams Realty, clean, sexy, classy, it'll last 1,000 years, I was done, joined immediately. And for the last 5 years, I wanted to get into leadership. I wanted to own offices, so I went out of production. I've been a team leader for the company, running an office. I've been an OP. I'm an investor of multiple market centers. And that's all I wanted to do is own offices and speak nationally for our company, teaching agents how to do this world and pull this lead gen lever online and watch how it works and how quickly it works. And that's all I've been doing for the last 5 years. And then about a year ago, Gary Keller came out with Mega Agent Expansion, the new model, Expansion Systems, ESO. And I'm like, so what exactly is this? He's like, Tony, let's say you go back into production and you launch Giordano Group again. which is what I had at Colbo. He launched Giordano Group again out of the LA office of KW. And I'm like, okay. I go, I don't want to go back in production. He goes, I know, but just follow me on this. He goes, I'll let you also launch Giordano Group out of our New York market center and start selling real estate in New York with your brand, since most big agents have connections all over the United States, but never take advantage of it because we can't get licensed in those states because it's too complicated and too time consuming. And I'll let you do this and not be licensed in New York. I'm like, how is that even possible? He goes, because you're going to find an expansion partner who is licensed out of that market center who wants to build your brand with you. And I'm like, why would they want to build my brand? He goes, the same reason 100,000 people wanted to build mine. Is if you give them value and they see something that can benefit them coming out of it, they'll build it with you. And you're going to find your president of Giordano Group in New York, and Chicago, and Seattle. And I'm like, and then how do I get paid? You get half of everything as a referral fee. You're not even on the listings, but they're building this brand, they're building your company there. And I'm like, this is brilliant. So I went back into production. And about 9 months ago, we launched back into production. We have 18 listings over 4 million each across the United States already in 12 major cities, and about a dozen in Southern California, where I am. All by doing what I'm about to show you. I just went back online and I just pulled it again. And throughout the last 5 years, people have been like, does it really work? You're not even in production. I'm like, it worked when I was in production, and I'm constantly evolving my presentation, and I teach and coach 30 of the biggest agents in the United States. And they're all doing it. So I know it works. Who do you coach? The #1 team in the world, Bob Lucido? My client. The #1 individual agent in the world for KW, Stephanie Vitaco? My client. That's who I coach. So it works, trust me. And sure enough, I pull it again, and it's coming in. So now that you know my story, now I ask you about online presence versus present online. What do you think I mean by this title? Well, the reason I title it this is because these two things, those two lines, are completely different. So, if I wanted to move to Houston tomorrow, and I wanted to completely annihilate and crush every other real estate agent here, and dominate the market share tomorrow, wherever a resident in Houston drives, wherever they go, they see my face, my name, my phone number, and just dominate the market share here. What would I have to be willing to do? Spend a massive amount of money every month, by the way, thousands, easily 100 grand a year, if not more. On what? Park benches, bus benches, billboards, shopping carts, TV commercial, radio, the baton that separates the groceries on the conveyor belt. Magazines, newspapers. And if I was willing to move here tomorrow and do that, and launch that massive of a marketing campaign, it would work, still to this day. And I would have what you call Houston presence when 99% of my competition here is just present in Houston. Follow? Same thing online. Everybody's present online. Very few have online presence in the United States. Very few. See, everybody's present though. Tony, I have a Facebook, I have a LinkedIn, I have a Twitter, I have a website. I'm present online. Awesome. Now I'm curious. How many transactions have you closed year to date this year in Houston that came just from your Facebook friend page alone? Not any of the others. Just your friend page of Facebook. How many transactions have you closed? Tony, I've closed 3 transactions so far this year that came directly from my Facebook friend page, from complete strangers who just were friends of friends, that have added up to $42,000 in GCI. Oh, so you don't do Facebook. Because you should be closing a transaction a week from just an hour of lead gen on Facebook in the morning. Easily. See, you just allow Facebook to happen like 90% of all agents. Meaning, you got a deal, and you're like, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is social media. I can see how social media is beneficial. I'm going to keep my Facebook. See, that's just letting it happen. But if you go in and purposefully use it, it's 1,000 more times an ROI. Online presence is two things. I'm going to give you 100 things to do today, but if you're not doing these two things that I'm about to mention right now, it'll never work. And let me really ruffle your feathers. If you don't do one of these things, but you do the other 98 things I'm going to give you to do today, it still won't work. These two things have to be being done all the time in order for this to work. So if you only want to do these two things and not the other 98, you'll get ROI quicker. The other 98 things just get the ROI faster and more often, more consistently. But these two things, I tried to get it down to one thing. I couldn't, sorry. So I'm going to come out with a book called The Second Thing. Actually, I'm going to come out with a book called The Second and Third Thing, because we all know the one thing is lead gen. But online, you have to do two things. Online presence is an audience that grows in size, not monthly,